The plug goes on the right side of the crossover. This is the intake part number available from the Ford dealer. Current mileage on the car during this repair. There is no hole in the original intake on the right side. This is the engine coolant temperature sensor on the left side of the crossover. Number 8 metric Allen wrench hex key with some Permatex water pump thermostat housing gasket maker. We have to add the plug to the right side of the crossover because the original intake did not have a hole on that side near the thermostat. This intake manifold is currently available from the Ford dealer and it was $500. We're going to remove the engine coolant temperature sensor off the original intake. I'm cleaning off the temperature sensor with a very small flathead screwdriver. I'm cleaning off the threads with a brass wire brush. Install the engine coolant temperature sensor on the left side using the gasket maker. Do this first so everything cures nicely before you install the new intake. Flip up fuel pump shut off inertia switch to shut off the fuel. Start the car, let it run. It'll run out of fuel and take all the pressure out of the fuel lines. For safety, I'm going to remove the battery out of the car. Disconnect the mass airflow sensor connector. Open both air filter housing clips, lift up, then push down towards the center of the car to remove the cover. Loosen intake boot clamp with a flathead screwdriver. Remove both of the breather hoses. Wiggle the intake boot as you pull it off to remove it. Use a 3/8 drive ratchet to take the tension off the belt. Then pull the belt off all the pulleys. Yes, it is a little difficult to remove. Disconnect the alternator electrical connector. Lift the boot and remove the 10mm bolt off the power lead. Remove the 4 10mm bolts on the alternator bracket. Just loosen the 2 10mm bolts under the alternator, do not remove them. Then lift up and remove the alternator. Squeeze the radiator hose clamp together, it will hold itself open. The radiator hose will be stuck to this really well, so you'll have to slide a flathead screwdriver under the hose without cutting it to help release it. Once it's unstuck enough, you can just pull the radiator hose off. Remove the 2 10mm bolts from the thermostat housing. Remove the thermostat with some channel locks or some pliers. I will be installing a new thermostat. Remove the wire cable and the spring off the throttle body. Remove the 2 10mm bolts off the throttle body cable retainer bracket. Reinstall the bolts back into the throttle body so you don't lose them. Squeeze the hose clamp clip together and pull it back on the hose, then remove the hose with some channel locks or some pliers. This hose didn't want to come off, so I had to use a flathead screwdriver to help assist pulling it off. Remove the throttle cable out of the retainer clips. Move the throttle cable out of your way. Remove the two 10mm bolts on the EGR tube heat shield back of the throttle body. Spray EGR tube bolt with liquid wrench 24 hours before starting this job. Yes, this is the very first thing you will do before you do anything. This bolt is hard to remove, and you will need the liquid wrench to help you remove it. I'm using a crescent wrench to remove this because this bolt is very large. Remove the electrical connectors with a flathead screwdriver. Remove the two vacuum lines. Remove the breather hose. Remove the vacuum line to the side of that breather hose. Remove the 5 8mm bolts securing the throttle body. Now you can remove the throttle body. Remove the temperature sensor electrical connector. This is a Pulp Fiction moment where I showed this previously. Remove ignition coil and fuel injector electrical connectors with a flathead screwdriver. Remove the two 15mm bolts on this metal bracket, which are incredibly hard to get to. Remove this securing electrical connector, and then you remove the 4 8mm bolts off the fuel rail. I'm removing the electrical connectors on the passenger side. I'm removing this ground wire. Removing the last two 8mm bolts off the fuel rail. I'm removing the 7mm bolt out of this ignition coil. I'm disconnecting this line off the purge valve. I'm using this fuel line disconnect tool set. Push both thumbs down on the safety clip, retainer clip, and remove it. Slide fuel line quick disconnect tool over the fuel line, push fuel line and quick disconnect together and pull the fuel line off. Pull up and wiggle on the fuel line rail and remove it, leaving all the fuel injectors connected. I'm going to put the fuel rail in a plastic garbage bag so I don't get fuel all over everything. Remove the 7mm bolts out of all of the ignition coils. Pull up on the ignition coils and remove them from the spark plugs. Squeeze the hose clamp together and pull up on the heater core hose to remove it from the intake. Remove all of the 10mm bolts from the intake manifold. I had to cut this tape that was wrapped around a retainer clip connected to the intake. Now you can pull up and slowly remove the intake manifold. Go really slow removing the intake. The plastic heat shield under the intake is cracked. The heat shield is also making it very hard to remove the intake. move that EGR line out of your way and then it'll finally come out. You can watch episode 7 of this Ford Crown Victoria in the link right here.